What's up, everyone? I had watched this documentary last night. Um, my girlfriend always yells at me. She's like, "Why are you always watching stuff about the Nazis and war and death and dying?" And I'm like, I don't know, because it's interesting. And it can make you depressed, but to me it kind of makes me feel better because, hey, at least I'm not going through that. You know, my life is rosy compared to what a lot of these people had to go through during these difficult time periods. But lately there was this controversy, quote unquote, because somewhere in Texas, some teaching official said, we need to be teaching both sides of issues because that's how you're fair and unbiased. And then she had mentioned this about the Holocaust, and it caused an uproar because what's teaching the other side of the Holocaust? Unfortunately, in most people's minds, that's become synonymous with revisionism. What's Holocaust revisionism? Well, it's basically whitewashing the event, whether you're saying it didn't happen or halfway saying it didn't happen, or there was an intent, or there was good reason for it to happen. But to me, that's not what revisionism should be in terms of the Holocaust. There are actually legitimate counter-narratives or just narratives that differ from what's commonly told and commonly held by people. I think probably the biggest misnomer is the Third Reich did what they did, and the Allies did everything they could to oppose the Nazi persecution. Whereas in reality, it was largely ignored, even covered up, swept under the rug, because there could potentially be a public outcry and a call for action to do something about it. The State Department and other government offices. So the stupid revisionist argument is the U.S. was isolationist and the internationalists and Jewish advocacy groups pushed the United States into war. What actually happened is conservative elements of the U.S. government covered up the Holocaust, didn't really give a shit. Even FDR didn't really give a shit. The organized Jewish community was rather weak. They had to fight, scratch, and claw to actually get any attention about the event, which didn't happen until the latter part of the World War, maybe 1943 onward. And only then was there some type of the beginnings of an organized resistance to the deportations, to the killing, etc., which actually did save a fair amount of people, although small in totality. But while preventing the whole event wasn't going to be possible, small efforts actually had a big effect. Think about individuals like an Oscar Schindler, or individual diplomats, or individuals who saved hundreds of people. Whereas organized governments, say, had the U.S. acted earlier with more organization, or even the Vatican spoken out, that would have resulted in actually organized resistance and probably would have saved a remarkable number of lives, while of course not preventing the event in its totality. I even heard there wasn't much government action, even say the Free French government in exile, like Charles de Gaulle speaking out against and letting it be known that those that participated would be held to account. Because if such things happened en masse, they would have made a large difference, actually. Because you had the government-held territory, the German-held territories, like Poland, held directly, like Poland, like the former Soviet Union, where it was going to have less of effect. But much of it was done by other nationalities, by other countries. The French, the Hungarians, the Romanians. So this is where resistance could have actually amounted to something. But in my mind, of any controversial revisionism that would really change the mainstream narrative that we have, I would say it was the lack of capacity or lack of will to act, whether that be speaking out against it, which could have resulted in some type of resistance, actually organizing some on-the-ground resistance or escape routes for refugees, or even before the war. The United States didn't have to take in all the refugees, but they could have found somewhere, some less inhabited part of the world where people could escape such desperate instances, some desperate circumstances. But yeah, I think it's interesting to watch a documentary like this, but you can also look to today, where because there was a failure to act, people take the refugee. People are very pro-refugee. A lot of people today. The question is, what's the best way to go about that? Because it's a burden for these countries, especially like Germany, Italy, to take large numbers of refugees, even the United States. So I always joke they should make a new country on a landmass and call it, like Refugeestan, and it would be all the refugees from war-torn parts of the world could go there. It'd be like their homeland. But I'm not sure how well that would work out. But if really desperate people need somewhere, maybe it'd be a better alternative. Anyway, yeah, this is a facet of the Holocaust that's not so well known. It's a little bit well known, but not so much. And debates about it, such as the Allies could have bombed some of the death facilities. I mean, they had the ability. The question is whether it would have been effective, what effect it ultimately would have had. Anyway, I think that's all on this one. Everyone have a good day.